Well, then, welcome everyone to our first AI lunch program. I'd like to thank everyone for spending their lunch hour with us. My name is Daniel Catlin with the Gateway Workforce Initiative. We're thrilled to launch this program as we believe AI can significantly enhance our businesses, boost efficiency, and empower our workforce. Our goal today here is to enlighten everyone uh, on the ways AI can be implemented in their business. This session will include a run through and the latest in AI news. We will also feature a live demonstration on how to effectively use AI programs, followed by a little Q&A if time permitting. This month, we'll be learning about Gemini and how it can be used in the Google Workspace. Now I'd like to hand it over to Michael Beauchamp from Local IT. Michael and I have collaborated on establishing this program, and he's volunteered to be our first presenter. Michael, thank you so much for agreeing and helping us get this off the ground.
Daniel, thank you. And I really appreciate all the efforts that you've put into this and making this happen. And it's definitely a privilege to be a part of what hopefully turns out to be a thing that we keep going for quite a while. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on a slide deck, but I do want to have some formality. I think there's value in having a slide deck. So Daniel just walked us through the introduction. We really have two primary parts. We're going to do some AI news, which is just to kind of get us kind of warmed up. Nothing super impressive, and I'll give a little commentary as we go through that news, and then we'll get into the presentation, which does have a slide deck, but will primarily be a real world demo. So Shopify CEO says no new hires without proof AI can't do the job. So Toby sent a memo out to the employees saying that before they ask for more headcount or resources, teams must show why they, quote, can't get what they want done using AI. And I pulled this out of the headlines. One, just to show off a little bit of the AI. This is Google Slides, and image 3 was recently added to Google Slides. So all of the images in these slides were created just by me typing in a prompt, which I think was pretty much me taking this headline and putting it into the prompt and producing this. But I think Toby's point here is, I wouldn't take it so much literally, but I hear this throughout AI. I try to involve myself as much as I can with AI. I even recognize some of the names of the participants here. I even spoke a little bit this morning that we just need to have a culture of AI. We need to have an attitude of AI. So I heard this morning there's companies who are using AI and there's companies who are being left behind. And I think that just touching AI, this goes to the extreme, but I wanted to kind of put this out there to kind of jar everyone and say, okay, this is a little bit of an extreme statement, but we need to start having that culture of AI. So a little bit on the other side of the spectrum, Trump pushes coal to feed AI power demand. The White House is seeking to lean on coal-fired power, which has been and steady decline in the U.S. over the last 15 years, to feed rising energy demands driven by artificial intelligence. I wanted to point this out because a lot of time what gets lost in this whole AI just fiasco and all the newest things that are coming out and the flashy new things, and it can make video and it can be my avatar, it can be my own voice, it can write things for me. I think it's lost in the practical. And so I wanted to kind of point this out just to show that there are so many aspects of AI. There's human beings involved, there's resources that are involved. And even in the creation of this presentation and the demo that I'll be giving, we're using an incredible amount of processing power. And that processing power has to be fed with some energy. And so that coal plants are looking to be coming online. If you wanted to do a deep dive into the power consumption requirements for AI, it's a fascinating thing. And if you're not really that interested in power, where they're looking to bring nuclear power online, Amazon is looking into this. Google, Microsoft, I think has leased or purchased some nuclear power. So just another end of the spectrum, that physical side of AI that we seem to sometimes forget. So this is out of the headlines a couple days ago. LinkedIn co-founder asked AI to clone his company. So I asked Replete to clone LinkedIn just to see how far it would get with a single prompt. The result, a surprisingly functional prototype. It's a powerful reminder with the right framing. Today's AI tools can turn a single idea into working software. He wrote it in a LinkedIn post. replete. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, just to make sense of what this that I pulled out of the headlines is a coding tool, an AI coding tool. So the idea is that myself or Daniel or anyone on this call who may not have any coding knowledge whatsoever can just type in a prompt and say, make me a LinkedIn clone. And it would produce a product. What I find is it's not really there yet. And and one of the reasons I wanted to do this is for the sake of the commentary, was to say, using AI on a regular basis is just going to make you more powerful. What I find is when I watch true computer programmers, coders, when they're using AI, it's just phenomenal. It's just to see them level up, to see the power that they're able to do. So if you're already good at your job, and I expect everyone on this call is, then how are you using AI to level up? And I thought this was a good headline to kind of focus on that idea. So AI with Google Workspace, presented by me, Michael Beauchamp, with local IT. We are based in Foley, Alabama. So actually, there's only one reason this slide is in here is I had an idea that I wanted to actually take and build out this presentation with AI in real time. I practiced that a little bit. I still think it's a good idea, but at least with using Google Workspace, it's just not designed for real time to do a presentation. It would just be a little bit too clunky, or I need a lot more practice. But this is 100% produced by an AI being prompted. So in a Google slide, I said, make me a slide. It needs to have a title and this piece of information, and make me a graphic. And so this is 100% produced by a prompt. Now let's get into the good stuff. So mostly for the rest of the presentation, I'm going to go over a slide, and then we're going to see what it can do in action. So Gemini is the AI that we're using. I may talk about Claude, I may talk about ChatGPT in comparison, but this is to show you what Gemini can do in the Google Workspace environment, so that you can look at using that to make your company productive today. If you're using Microsoft 365, of course, you have Copilot and other things, but today's presentation is just to show off these tools and how you can implement it. So Gemini in Gmail, what we're going to look at is write in your own words and have Gemini give it a polish. We're going to have Gemini write an email for us, and then we're going to see what we can do with a little bit of research in our inbox. So let's see it in action. So this isn't going to be as robust as I would like. This is my sandbox. I don't know if you'll notice, but I am Forward Prefect for this demonstration. This is one of our test platforms that we use before we put something into one of our customers' production. Sometimes we may want to test it out if it's a pretty big implementation. So this doesn't have a lot of data on it, but for this size of this audience, I didn't want to put my live production data out there in front of everyone, especially since this is being recorded. What I did want to show you is that I took the time to go ahead and write an email out that I am looking kind of in the past, and this is what an email would have looked like that I would have sent to Daniel. So let's see how it works. Hi, Daniel. It was great to see you at South Baldwin Chamber of Commerce. Leadership Lunch, Alabama's AI Opportunity, Understanding and Embracing the Future. That's way too long of a sentence. Kai is a great public speaker. I was not expecting him to present AI so specific to Alabama in general and Baldwin County specifically. And I hope everyone picked up on the grammar problems with that sentence. I have been going to Kai's LAI meetings for months now. His passion to bring AI to this area is nearly evangelical. And I chose evangelical on purpose here because that's not necessarily something that you hear in a business email, but it's something that I do believe is a correct word to use, just not something you would put in a business email. I think that we could bring some real value to the community if we work together to put on a monthly AI virtual event. Let's find some time this week to grab a coffee and figure out what we can do. And now it built in, and this is kind of the whole point of this, built into the Google Workspace, into Gmail, we have this little Gemini feature. Now we can polish, formalize, elaborate, shorten most of the time, and I encourage professionals to do such things. I write the vast majority of my emails and my content, and then I just want Google to help me out or Gemini to help me out, but we'll look at other ways as well. So if I polish that up, then we'll we'll review this. So hi, Daniel. It was great to see you at South Baltimore Chamber of Commerce Leadership Lunch, especially with Kai's insightful presentation on Alabama's AI opportunities. To me, that is far superior than what I wrote, but still gets across my meaning because I wrote it. I was impressed by how specific he addressed the implication for both implications for both Alabama and Baldwin County. Having attended Kai's LAAI meetings for months, I've seen firsthand his dedication to introducing AI to our area, which is, of course, a far superior sentence than what I chose to write. I believe a collaboration on a monthly AI virtual event would bring significant value to our community. Would you be available to meet for coffee this week to discuss how we may proceed? That's fantastic. So for the sake of completeness, you'll see that this is in a breakout box. I can't really do anything with it. I can't edit it, but I can say that looks great and I can insert it. And then it becomes part of this email. If you go out to use that, make sure that you do what I forgot to do too many times, is to delete that. And the reason they leave it there is practical, is to say, okay, what did I originally write? I can't remember. So it doesn't just replace it. It gives you the opportunity to make those edits. And then I can send that out to Daniel, and then he gets that email. Like I said, there's not a lot going on here, and I'm kind of starting at the very simplistic, and we're going to work our way up in complexity of what Gemini can do. But just to show how it does integrate into the Google Workspace from the Gmail perspective, we have our little starburst here. If we ask Gemini, then we can start to have it interact with this email. So what can Gemini do with email? I can just ask it that question. It's going to scan through my emails and give me some ideas. It says I can summarize email threads, I can suggest responses, so forth and so on. We can also do this in our Google Calendar, in our Google Drive, in our Google Chat. All of these products have tight integration with the Gemini artificial intelligence, keeping us from having to break out and open up a ChatGPT or even open up another Gemini session. For this one, we have an old email when we were doing a project, and I had one of my sysadmins had replied back to me, but let's see if we could do this. We are just going to write from here, help me write, reply to Ford, asking for more information. To better assist you, could you please provide me more information regarding the issues you encountered? This helps. This will help us understand the situation thoroughly and offer the most effective support. So this is where obviously the AI can shine. It can read the email. I'll go ahead and insert it just so we can see how that looks like. But I didn't read the email, so I don't know if this reply is good. The AI will let us get away with things. So to some degree, my point for kind of seeing how that worked is if you do have a very long and complex email and it's got enough data that it kind of knows your tone and it knows what's going on, this is pretty effective. But if it doesn't have a tone, if it doesn't really know what's going on, there's not enough data for it to figure out the context of everything, then it's going to be relatively weak. And mostly I like to take an opportunity to show examples like this to say, don't let AI be a crutch to you. Don't let AI take the place of you using your brain. It's a tool to power you up, to level you up to the next, not to necessarily 100% take over, because it's going to fail and possibly make you look very unprofessional. So Google AI Studio, we're going to look at a couple of examples. I've got some sample business cards, and we're going to look at possibly doing some web scraping. I've got a set of pictures from a site survey. And we're going to look at how Google AI Studio handles that. And then we're going to look at we're going to review a PDF document and pull some news stories out of it and see if we can create some images. So this is the Google AI Studio. You can simply do a Google search for Google AI Studio or aistudio.google.com. For the first one, we're going to look at some business cards. I've got those in Google Drive. So if I select all those and I insert, then the AI is going to get those loaded in, and it's waiting for me to give that a prompt. Let me take a moment before we get started, because the next action that's going to happen is kind of important. And I want to kind of show you what this interface looks like, and make sure that I demystify it a little bit, but also you can just kind of ignore a lot of it, or you can dig in deeper and do some things. So we're simply at a chat, just like you would be at a Gemini chat or at a Chat GPT chat. And I simply uploaded these images, and I'm about to interact with what I want the AI to do with these. And it's going to give me some ideas of what I might be able to do as well down here. But what's happening over here? This looks real complicated and looks really scary. We're actually going to only look at 2 of the models. For the most part, you can always leave these kind of things as default and it'll just take care of you. As far as temperature and structured output and code, again, you can play with these things, but the safe thing is just leave them as default. So if we hover over, we'll see the Gemini 2.5 Pro preview, which is the latest and greatest of Google's tools. And then here you have some costs involved. This is a pay-for account with Google Workspace, so these costs don't exactly apply. It would only be for a good deal of usage. So you can kind of consider this for your daily driver to be a free product to use, even in the Gmail, the @gmail.com free use. While I'm here, because we're going to look at this later, I can click down and look at all of the different models that I have access to, and we're going to look at image generation a little bit later. So if you missed that, I want to point it out now that depending on the specific use case you have for AI, and this is with Claude and with ChatGPT and Anthropic and many others, is you may want to use a different model to get different results or get a little bit more refined results. But we've got this here, so let's ask it to do something. Let's see, look at these business cards and pull the contact data out and output in a clear format. And then let's see what it does. So it's going to start thinking down here. And as we get into the thinking model, we can actually, it's going to take us quite a few seconds. We can break out of it. And this is actually kind of interesting to read over as well. And I like to breeze through this if I have the time to kind of get an understanding of what AI is doing, because it can help you kind of write your prompts better and help you kind of work through what's happening. I'm not going to read through all this. I just wanted to show you that if you break out of it, that you can see what is being processed. You can kind of see where the data is starting to come out. And let's get all the way scrolled down to the bottom here. And it's currently, as we can see, outputting that data. So card 1, we have Tom DeBell. Looks like it did a good job. I have a name, I have a title, the company, which is implied. I have to look at the card to see how it got that. We've got a good email there and a good website. So clearly we could copy and paste this over into our contact list or to our CRM or some other product. But this is also not that big of a deal, right? You can take a picture of a business card and get it into your phone. There's a number of ways to do that. But I wanted to use this as the foundation for 2-part. 1, if you need to do things in bulk, where you're saying, hey, we just got back from this trade show, or we just got back from this event and we have the stack of cards, I could hand those off to someone and say, hey, take a lot of pictures of these, put them over into Google AI Studio, and then that way we can process them, get them digitized as quickly as possible. So what's something else we can do that's a little bit more complex that I want you to be thinking about asking the AI to do things a little bit more complicated? So using the data above, create a separated value file. I think it needs outputs in a Google Contacts format. I'm going to leave that typo there because it doesn't care. And again, as it's thinking along, you can either wait for it or you can pop out the thinking model and actually do something here that I do want to make sure that you're understanding kind of what's happening, where the sausage is made, if you will. So it understands the goal, and then identify Google's contacts, CSV, comma separated value requirements. And this is important. If you went and looked at pulling down a template, and you can do this with Microsoft 365, you can do it with other CRMs, where it's going to go look for a template on the internet. It understands that in its training data, and it's going to say, okay, I know that I need to line up organization name organization one name with company and organization one title with job title. And so it's taking that output that's a little bit more human reader friendly, and it's putting it into the format that Google Contacts is going to want if I'm going to import a large amount of data. So it worked that all out, it thought through it, it put it into those formats, and then what did we actually get? So we get a couple of cool things happening here. First, it says, I got it done. And then here's the instructions. Maybe you don't even know how to do this. So it says, here's how you're going to get this file from here to where you want it. But also, and this is just going to flash and be a download. If I hit this download here, then that flashes up into my downloads. I can rename that to CSV file, and that's ready for me to directly import. So here's the raw data that it pulled in as a comma separated value. And then it gives me some little extra pieces here to say, okay, here's what I've done, or here's some expanding information. Let's take it one step further. With this one, I'm going to do grounded in Google search, and I'm going to say, using the data above, scrape the web and give as much detail about each person. And again, not necessary. I just like to look through this and see where it's going. So it's identify key search entities. So it broke it down into simple pieces. We've got Tom and Eric, Lisa, and Tim here. And then I think this is really cool because what it's doing in this case is it's saying, all right, I'm going to ask my own prompt. So these are prompts that it's asking internal to itself. And as we're going to see, where is it going to do those prompts, and then how is it going to output it? So we see it did pretty much the same for each person. It kind of understood some uniqueness about them. And then we start to pull out some of the real treasure. So we've got Tom, founder and president of Modern Leadership, 30 years of experience. Let's see, he is education coordinator of Coastal Wealth Builders chapter of BNI. That's pretty amazing they could find that. That BNI chapter, I think, has been in existence for like 7 months. And it was able to pull that information off the web. And then we've got the same thing with Eric, quite a bit of information about him that's more than one would expect. We've got Dr. Lisa Miller here, her practice there in Foley. We've got Tim, which everybody knows. When I was running this before, I think that I spotted Cybertruck in here, which it maybe didn't scrape the second time. I was pretty impressed by that. Tim is well known for his Cybertruck. But anyway, nonetheless, quite a bit of useful information to be pulled out of here. Definitely something that I could use. You know, I'm certain everyone understands use cases for this, but if I wanted, I get done with those networking meetings, I go and use this to scrape the internet. Now I have a little bit more information that I can try to make a connection to that person, try to be more meaningful to that person, and see what I can do. And then Google is really well known for their sources, so it gives all of the sources where it pulled that data from. We can even go a little bit further and say this data into something that is helpful for my sales guy. And this will be our last sample of this. All right, and then as you would expect, a lot of the similar information above just broken down into, as you can see during the thinking portion, into bullet points, break it down into simple things. Let's see, key info and potential talking points. That's fantastic. If I saw, Tom at a chamber meeting or something, I'd say, I know that you're a coach. Could you tell me more about the Maxwell or full focus, these types of things? That's not something that I necessarily would know that would strike up a conversation or make him be interested, or me truly having interest in what he's doing and try to learn. So there you go. There's some ways that we can bring Gemini to taking something as simple as business cards and continuing to expand and refine and scrape the web and just get more meaningful information out of there. So the next thing is a little bit more advanced. I'm going to start a new prompt, and this time what I'm going to do is bring in some site survey pictures. I tried to sanitize these. Yeah. So these are from an actual real customer of mine, but they've been tried to get as little detail. I think there's an IP address that's snuck in there, but it's not really relevant. You can't tell anything from an IP address. That's about it. So look at the network hardware and give as much detail as possible about the network here, ISP, cabling, and overall network. All right, so we're going to ask it to do some fairly sophisticated network evaluation. And hopefully, you can see the use case of this if you're out taking pictures of an event, you're taking pictures of a property that you need to do something with, you're taking pictures for something that's damaged, something that has been repaired, before and after. You can really flex with Google AI Studio. It just has a lot of power in doing this. And also, let me make sure that I'm bringing up a concept here while we're waiting on this to process, because it's chewing on quite a bit of data. If you've heard the term multimodal, so this is a great example that we've used over these last couple of examples of that AI is able to do different things. So if it can look at text and give you more information, like it can process a transcript, like we see with the Fireflies, and all of those transcript and analysis tools. And it can able to summarize it or expand upon it, but that's just text data. So a different mode is going to be your image data. So we see that it's thinking here, and that's really good. So we'll start at the top. I asked it about the ISP, so it has here in the ISP section, it's an ONT, which is our fiber optic network, and a couple of things that it did a good job on. I don't see that it pulled out C-Spire yet. It does see it's a C-Spire router here. This is really valuable information. If I'm handing this off to my network engineer, this is something that your junior technicians are just not going to be able to find for you on doing a site survey, and not even know to take that picture. If we went back and looked at that picture, you'll see that this piece of information is very, very subtle in there. And again, please do not get tied up that this is network stuff, that this is something you don't understand. If you do understand it, I hope you are enjoying it. But if you don't understand it, just apply it to your industry. Apply it to where you would be taking pictures. So it identified a router. That's great. I've got a model number there, and it's labeled as C-Spire. That's going to be real helpful when I'm building out my documentation and getting that over to my engineers so they can get that over to sales, so we can get this customer a valuable product. So it continues to go through, it finds the switching network. This is fantastic. It finds the wireless access point. It presumes that there might be such a thing as a cellular gateway, but it does get this as an Internet of Things device, which is actually correct. So it cannot be perfect. And I only gave it a limited amount of information, and I had to sanitize it for the sake of this presentation. So this is actually much more robust with when I gave it more information. So here we go. As it's getting down to summarizing, it did a good job and says clearly the ISP here is C-Spire. That's really cool. And then it gives some cabling issues, and it gives the overall topology is what I asked it to do. So it's C-Spire, fiber, and then it goes over into Ethernet. It gets into the LAN. It gets us into our wireless. This is exactly how you would expect an advanced IT guy to work this out. Let's keep going, and we'll do one more step to kind of pull this out. So write a summary or a presentation to the customer and estimate the time it would take to clean up the network and configuration. So let's see how well it does with that. Okay, so here's a breakdown of the thinking process. Objectives: create a concise presentation summary for a customer about their network and set up and propose a cleanup, including a time estimate. We've got our audience. We've got the key pieces of information that's pulled out of what we've grabbed so far. Physical cleanup is really interesting. And here's where it gets into this thinking, which we'll see summarized below, where it's getting into the hours. So this could take 2 to 4 hours. So labeling of cables, cleaning up of rack, dust, and dealing with that. These are things that could easily be overlooked by a salesperson who doesn't really understand all the nuance of what needs to be done, and that creates a frustration with the guys that actually have to get it done. So I was really impressed with that it started to pull this information out. Okay, so we get down here. presentation summary, network infrastructure, overall cleanup process. So the current situation, I'm not going to read through all of that. It's basically just as we saw, a summary of what's going on. I really wanted to focus on getting down to where it got into the time, because I thought that was pretty interesting. So estimated time for cleanup based on the visible state of the cabling equipment involved. We can estimate cleanup project will take approximately 1.5 to 2 business days, roughly 12 to 16 hours. And I ran this through when it was, and I was able to give it a lot more information. This is really, really good. So I'm very, very impressed based on, we've actually finished this project. And when it had the vastness of information, I ran it through this to get an estimate. And it was scary how accurate it was on a breakdown of each component. All right. So hopefully that gives everyone some ideas of how they could use that in business. Let's do another one that might be a little bit more accessible by more people. I'm going to jump over into my Google Drive again. What I did here was just take an email that has some AI news in it. AI Valley is a really good news source. So pull out 3 news stories that would be good for me to post on my blog. Change them up to be a little fun and funny. And we've kind of done this already. What I'm actually going to do is use this as a launching point to do something a little bit more sophisticated. So again, just while we're waiting, we'll look over. It understands the goal. It scans the news. It went ahead and OCR'd it. It's got the different pages here. It's pulling out those headlines. Rewrite each story. There's taking my prompt with humor and fun. And then we've got here, let's see, we've got one is going to be Meta crashes the AI party with 2 new llamas. And then we've got 3. We've got Midjourney finally wakes up, releases V7, and number 2 rather, and number 3. OpenAI hits the snooze button on GPT-5, and then so now that we've got that, is write a prompt for each of these stories for image creation. So layering your AI on top of each other. And what I mean by that is, at one pass, and sometimes you can get things in a single pass, but I like to kind of try to get the best that I can out of each pass. So when I pull the data out, and then I want to say, okay, now that we're done with that, I want to go ahead and have AI create me because I'm not good at writing image generation prompts. So understands the goal. This is important. The user wants image prompts for AI generator, such as Midjourney, DALL-E, Stable Diffusion. And if you're not familiar, these are all image creation tools, Midjourney being the most popular, which is actually mentioned in one of the articles. But we have Gemini, so we're going to see how that works. So here is the actual prompt. So a hilarious scene, two cool cartoon llamas wearing sunglasses. And then it goes on with styles. It does all the things it wants to do. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go and change over to my image generation model. I'm going to paste that in, and let's see what we get. All right, there we go. Those look like 2 pretty cool llamas to me. And you can download this. I'll just go ahead and hit download just to make sure we see that. So that got downloaded, and then I'll quickly just go ahead and do all these prompts, and also so we can see what the speed is on this. It's pretty fast. Let's see, a slightly frazzled but happy robot artist covered in digital. Oh, goodness gracious. I don't know if I'm happy about that or disturbed. But that's what it prompted to run. So I could download that one with ease, and let's go ahead and do the last one just for fun. So, coming soon, the big brain of ChatGPT 5. And of course, we could go through and refine those, get those a little bit more like we like them, or take it in a totally different direction. We could even get the prompt to be rewritten with that. So it's just more that you see prompts, more that you get AI to help you write those prompts. You can obviously refine those prompts, which is kind of the point that I want you to take away. All right. So what we did there was we used Google AI Studio. We did some business cards and some scraping. We took some site survey pictures and got some description of those. We took that PDF, we wrote a review, and then we created some images. So for our next part, we're actually, this is a little bit tricky. So I'm going to go through Notebook Notebook LM. But what's tricky about what I want to try to accomplish today is I want to try to take today's presentation and use this data that we've collected over this time and show you how Notebook LM works, because it's really unique. Google's created something different here that is a lot of people are looking at as kind of we didn't think to use AI that way, and it kind of solves some problems and it does some interesting things. So using today's presentation as source material, show off Notebook LM's ability to summarize first, but then what I want to show is its ability to expand that information. And then we're going to look at some mind map, and then we'll see what we can do with a podcast. So I've practiced on this, but let me go ahead and create a new one. And I'm going to take my time to walk through these. So here's a slide, Notebook LM. We're going to take today's presentation. We're going to summary, we're expand it, we're going to mind map, we're going to do a podcast. So now let me remember to tab over. This is our Notebook LM interface. Let me go back to the beginning so you can see how this works. Let me get this one deleted. All right, so this is the interface. If you go to notebooklm.google.com, we're going to create. That will immediately pop open our sources. If we didn't do that, I just wanted you to be comfortable, because we're going to review all these panels where we've got our source here. I'm going to hit add. Again, the tight integration with Google means I'm going to get Google Docs and slides. I can also go scrape a website. If anybody is interested in this, let me tell you that it's a good 25% failure rate on scraping websites. So use that one. Don't get too enthusiastic if that's something that you're interested in. YouTube does a really good job. When we talk about multimodal, let me set an expectation here. With YouTube, what it's actually doing is it's pulling the transcript. So if you were to say, like if Daniel were to take this YouTube video and get it published here in the next 24 hours, it's going to take an additional amount of time before YouTube transcribes that video, auto transcribes it. And so it would not be available to be used in this URL. It would just say, error, I don't have anything to pull. So just to give some context for how these two works, and then copy text is exactly as you would expect. I use this to throw in some really quick notes every once in a while. One thing to point out, if you to go use this product, that can be a little bit disconcerting if you're using Google Drive and you're going to grab those spreadsheets or those PDFs and things, it won't work. It only grabs Google Docs and slides. But never fear, you can always just put those into other formats, take those spreadsheets, put them into PDF, take any other data that you've got, put them in PDF. It can also accept Markdown and audio formats of different types. But for our case, we do have plenty of this data in Google Drive. So what I did is, or what I want to do is take our very slideshow that we have, our slide deck that we have now. Also, when I was running through my tests, I captured all of the data output that we have. So we're going to say, we're going to take this and the data output from one of my previous sessions. And then when I was running through, I actually recorded myself giving this presentation. So this is not this presentation, but it's going to be enough of the presentation for you guys to get a flavor of it. So we can insert that. Let me go back to add data. As you can see, for the pay for, if you're in Google Workspace, then you're going to get up to 300. This actually does right now have a diminishing return. I've been up to about 50, 70 documents, and I see a lot of good value. But it starts to get a little bit overwhelmed if it gets too much data to deal with. So we've pulled in this data. Now let's break down into these other two panels to make sure that you have an understanding if you go out to use this. So this middle panel, this is our chat panel. So think of this as your ChatGPT or your Gemini. This is where you're going to interact with this data. That's an interesting concept that I want to make sure you're getting from Notebook LM that I haven't put forward yet, which this is very much a walled garden. And what I mean by using that term is to say Notebook LM is restricting itself to taking all of its learning, all of its understanding of, the world. It's been trained on a lot of things, but focusing on your data and not going outside of that data set. So it's resistant to hallucinations. It's resistant to bringing in false information. We've heard those stories about, people who would Even AI, I think, got confused because it pulled a news story that was an April Fool's joke, and I think some news organizations ran with it. We have the stories up in New York. I think there was the attorney who got in trouble because AI hallucinated an event. So this is resistant to that, and it also keeps your data in-house. So if you're pulling this data from your Google Drive, it goes into Notebook LM. Notebook LM is part of the core of Google Workspace, and I say that as a security concern, not as a sales concept, but as a security concept, that you're keeping your data in-house. So if you've got things that are SOPs that you've built, and you want to use this as a training platform, that's really what Notebook LM is primarily geared for, is to take all of that training data, get it into one spot, and then you could have, either an executive all the way down to your new hire ask questions against those SOPs, against those training documents, this, that, and the other. So this is our chat interface. And you can see that we've got some prompts down here, which we are going to use. But while we're here in the chat, let's hold here and let's look over at Studio. Studio is the actual output that's going to retain this data. So if we leave this session, then this chat may go away. It's not saved in any way. But right here, I've got save note, and it's going to make it part of these notes. And then let's look at what the prompts have, because it's pretty good. How do the featured businesses individual demonstrate? Blah, blah, blah. Let's see what else we've got. Key themes that emerge regarding. So I like that one. So what are the key themes regarding artificial intelligence, which we covered so much, a vast amount of data, that this is a pretty good prompt to say there are several key themes emerge regarding the application and impact of artificial intelligence across diverse sources provided. And then, as you can see, not only is it consolidating all the information, it's actually expanding all that information. So it's trying to be an educational platform. I find this very valuable for my staff. We'll have meetings, but I need to try to educate more. So I'll try to ask it questions that bring out kind of the focus, the data that the training model can bring out more for us. Another one, just because we're going to run short on time, I want to look at is, I use this all the time, glossary of terms. This becomes very helpful, and I forgot to add that to my model. And then while we're doing that, let me go ahead and hit that generate button. So based on the sources, here's a glossary of terms related to artificial intelligence and technology. Now, most of these things I said during my presentation, but some of them I did not necessarily directly say, and somehow or another, and Google has not revealed how they do this, where they're using the walled garden, but they're also using the vastness of the internet to pull information out. So context window, I didn't really directly say anything about context windows, but it understood it from some of the other terms that I said. And then GPUs we talked about, VLANs is in the documentation. So a lot of this stuff is found in the documentation. I'm pretty confident most in the room don't understand what DHCP stands for. And if you had to review this document, that's why I really like the glossary of terms. This is just giving you a really quick note to say, okay, let's not assume that you know all this nomenclature of the industry that we're talking about, but it gives us a nice little type breakdown. So I can save this over here. And again, because we're running out of time, I'm going to hit briefing of this document. As you can see, I've got all 4 of these. And as soon as that gets generated, let me show you this next part that becomes significant if you're going to use this tool. In notes here on the top right area, we've got convert all notes to source. This is mostly just a time-saving feature for the next step. Although you can definitely do that, delete these out, and do this over and over again. As you add more data, you can grow and grow and grow. So if you have, say there's a stand-up meeting and you just want to keep adding and adding and adding information, you could continue to add the studio over to the source and then delete the studio so that it's becoming usable on a weekly basis if you need to refresh this area but not lose that information. But while we're here, let me make sure that we see what's happening. So this is our summary, and it goes through here. And then what happens is each one of these sections is broken down into this large document. One of the things that Notebook LM does not seem to want to fix right now is for me to get this out of here. I'll air the dirty laundry. This is really a copy and a paste. I'm not going to go through that effort, but I would have to copy this and then paste it over into, say, a Google Doc or something, and then tighten up the formatting a little bit. But then this would be a product that would be ready to be used in some form or fashion. So, Daniel, that's about it. I'm going to try to get Notebook LM to give us the big here's the big finish. I don't know how this is going to work, but we're going to see if AI Studio can give us an audio overview in the form of a podcast. Daniel, let me make sure you hear it.
Ever feel like you're just drowning in information? You know, like articles stacking up, newsletters you swear you'll read later, and those random notes you scribbled down that you can't even remember what they're about?
Yeah, we totally get it. It's like a fire hose of data sometimes.
But that's why you're here with us on the deep dive. Think of this as like your cheat code to cut through the noise and actually get to the good stuff. Today, we got a real grab bag of stuff you sent us. A handful of business cards, the latest scoops from that AI Valley newsletter everyone's talking about, a whole presentation on AI with Google Workspace, and even the presenter's personal notes.
Sounds like a real mix, right?
It is. But trust me, we've already spotted some wild connections running through all of it. Really fascinating stuff, ready to dive in.
Absolutely. That's what we're here for. We want to make sense of all this for you, pull out the real gems so you don't have to spend hours doing it yourself.
All right.
Unmute yourself.
All right, Daniel, there you go.
Perfect. And real quick, we've got a little bit of time, about 5 minutes, but one of the things I really find helpful with Notebook LM is the project management side of it. And I was hoping you could kind of speak to that real quick.
What do you mean when you say project management side?
Okay, so didn't mean to throw you under the bus on that one. So whenever we have a project that we are working on, I find Notebook LM extremely helpful in putting all that information into one notebook. And then I can always ask it, where are we on this project? And if I do a good job of transferring the data over, it will tell me exactly what step needs to happen next in order to make sure I don't drop a ball.
Yeah, actually, that's great that you used project management, and I'm glad that kind of threw me and me having to ask the question, because that's one of the points that I wanted to try to take away from this, is that your use case may vary. So don't get locked into my example. Don't get locked into this is designed to be, a supplement for a tutor, kind of have a real professor there for you. Yeah, project management is a great use case for this. It's all about capturing that data. And I've been preaching this for well over a year, and I hope that people are picking up from what this presentation did. And I will take what you're saying and kind of elevate that. Is you've got to be recording all these meetings. You've got to be getting these, these substantial emails need to be potentially, virtually printed out into a PDF and then pulled into something like a Notebook LM. But another way to look at it to your end is saying, all right, where's the project folder and where's our core data? Where's that raw data? Where are we dumping all that data? And having your entire team push it in there. Notebook LM is a little bit restricted right now, but another thing you can do, and I don't know if you're already using this for your team, and Ford Prefect is the only user here. Right now, Notebook LM is domain inclusive. So Daniel, as you know, if we were going to work on a notebook together, we couldn't share it across our domains. So it does have to be inside of your domain to use it. But yeah, project management is just one other example of a use case. So I was talking to an attorney and we were kind of discussing this, and he was saying, well, what if I took a lot of cases from this judge and I fed all of his case data and his decisions and some commentary on that person and fed that in a Notebook LM and started asking him questions. How would he react to this? How would he react to this? So until you start talking to different professionals, you definitely don't want to put yourself in a box and say, okay, well, this AI only works for this because that's how I saw it used. You really have to start using it on a daily basis, and project management's a great use case.
Wonderful. Again, Michael, thank you so much for your time today. And again, thank you for everybody who was on this call today. I hope you found real value in it. I'm going to ask you to do a couple things. If you would please tell me what you find useful and areas we can improve. There's always room for improvement on our end. So let us know what you would like to hear and ways we can help deliver that to you. We'd love to be able to provide a better product. But next month, we're excited to say we're going to be doing another AI and Lunch program. It's going to be May 14th. Chris Haber with Easy AI is going to be on here discussing voice AI, text-back technology, web chatbots, and AI automation, and how that can be implemented in your businesses. So again, please mark your calendars. Would love to have you back. And again, this recording will be put on YouTube if you'd like to share that with anybody or rewatch a portion of it.